Welcome, everyone. I am excited to bring you into this exciting panel entitled Long Duration Energy Storage, the Piece of the Puzzle to Enable the Energy Transition. I am Elizabeth Sturken. I'm Managing Director of EDF Plus Business. It's Environmental Defense Fund, an NGO, and I lead our work with companies on the net zero transition. On our panel today, I would like to invite up, please, Madeline Gilborn from Alfa Laval, Julia Suder from the Long Duration Energy Storage Council, Michael Geyer from Malta, and Jonas Wallmander from Azelio. And joining us virtually, we are very pleased to have Godard van Gent from McKinsey & Company. So hopefully you all, oh, there you are on the other side of me. I know you can't see us, we can see you. Excited to have this panel and dive into this very interesting topic. So, as I said in the title of this session, long duration energy storage is a super critical piece of the puzzle to enable the energy transition. Launched at COP26, the LDES Council is made up of organizations that strive to accelerate energy decarbonization at the lowest cost to society by driving innovation, commercialization, and critically, obviously, for impact, driving deployment. The purpose of this session is to present the latest insights into energy storage, as well as discuss how we can advance the deployment of long-duration energy storage technologies to reach net zero. So, welcome to all the panelists. I'm going to jump right in with some questions, and if we have some time at the end, we will do some questions from the audience. First, Madeline, let's explain where we're at. Why is energy storage an important part of the energy transition?
Yes, so first of all, if we want to reach net zero, we have to increase multiples when it comes to renewables. But the problem with renewables, or the challenge with renewables, is that they're intermittent, or they are variable, as we say as well. And just by nature, I mean, you have solar and wind. The sun is not shining when we want it, and the wind is not blowing either. So we have to create flexibility. We have to balance the supply and demand when we are into the transition.
That makes sense. We'll try it. Oh, the microphone is working again. Jonas, could you tell me a little more about long-duration energy storage? And also, if you could explain why it's so important.
Long-duration energy storage is really important if you want to cover the base load of energy. Because if you have normal storage, like in normal batteries, you cover a couple of hours of storage. But we need accessible power 24/7. And if we are combining renewable energy and the long duration energy storage, we are really able to cover all the 24 hours with base load. And that is needed for our industries. It's needed to sort of power the society 24/7. So that's the long duration energy storage.
I think that makes sense to me. Can you say some more about, for a non-energy expert, what baseload means and why you don't just solve it by putting a number of batteries together?
I mean, putting a number of batteries together, first of all, it will be extremely expensive. The long duration energy storage technologies, the key with these technologies is that it's very cheap to build capacity. And by building capacity, we are able to provide the 24 hours of storage or even longer. I mean, what we all strive for is a competitive industry. We need to be competitive as a country. And then we need low energy prices. And that's where long duration energy storage comes in.
And And is base load the kind of average energy that's needed during the day? I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
what you're trying to cover here.
Sure, just to jump in, the question about baseload, and thank you, Elizabeth, for noting this, because I think long duration energy storage is the missing puzzle piece. We are the unknown piece that needs to help make the energy transition happen. And we give that flexibility. So you have that energy shifting so that every hour is met. So yes, we replace fossil fuel plants. Yes, we give you that capacity, that firm power, that firm heat. And we have the diversity of long duration energy storage. So we can have small megawatts, large megawatts. We can be, behind the meter, off the grid, on the grid in urban settings. We're giving you the certainty to make sure that you can meet your net zero targets.
Yes, that makes sense. And Michael, I'd like to ask you a question. So last year in Glasgow at COP26, you launched the Long Duration Energy Storage Council. Could you, as a board member, tell me some more about it and what you're trying to accomplish?
Okay. Yes. Well, first of all, I think here energy storage, so far, let's say, politicians, users, utilities, they only think in power, in megawatts, gigawatts, terawatts. And storage is a new dimension. It is gigawatt hours, it is megawatt hours, it is kilowatt hours. So what we try to do at the Long Duration Energy Storage Council, first of all, let's say to educate and to explain decision makers, policy makers, users, transmission system operators, what is, let's say, this new dimension of storage that we didn't know, let's say, in the energy world before. Because in the energy world before, in order, let's say, rather than covering base load, what you have to cover is demand. And let's say in the past, we could cover demand by opening our gas pipeline and burning more or less gas or shoveling coal into the coal plants. But when we are going to decarbonization, we don't have this anymore. And so what we have to do is we have to do practically the variable renewable energy in a box from which we can, and then this is energy which we put into the box, not power. And then when we need energy, we have to take it out of the box and inject it in the grid as demand. So that is what we see as our mission at the Long Duration Energy Storage Council, to educate, to bring together technologists, users, lenders, utilities, TSOs, so that we are kind of a multiplying deployment factor for this new dimension in the power system on the way to decarbonization at net zero.
Well, clearly you have the right woman in charge with Julia, because she's already educating and explaining from the get-go here on their session today. So, Julia, can you, as the executive director of the council, so it was launched over a year ago. You've been in charge since this spring. This is a big mandate, right, to bring all of these actors together and try and solve some of these hurdles, I imagine. Can you say some more about what you've done as the head of the council?
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I think what's exciting is that we have an enormous membership motivation. The membership are driving the importance of this. The ecosystem of the partnerships growing from 22 a year ago to over 60 today. And we are looking at technology providers giving you that diversity of long duration energy storage, well with different types of partners where capital providers, equipment manufacturers, customers, they're all validating the need for long duration energy storage. And so what we really want to show is through these reports that we've been providing fact-based information from membership's data, giving this policy information, this real-time data to change the story, to change the narrative, to say long duration energy storage, or LDES, is right up there with hydrogen and the other system, other solutions. We are part of the solution to make a difference. And so we launched at COP26 our net zero power report, and now at our year anniversary, we launched our net zero heat report, demonstrating that long duration energy storage gives you the clean, firm power and the clean, firm heat. And so we're excited to hear more from Hodart and Mackenzie, our partners, about what this is. But again, thrilling to see the motivation and the interest of why long duration energy storage is critical to meeting our global net zero targets.
So that's a good segue to Hodart, and I'm wondering if you could please walk through the net zero heat report that McKinsey did.
Thanks a lot. And just wanted to check, Julia, did you want to briefly show the page with all the members and just talk through our membership just before I dive into the report itself?
That'd be great.
So I think there'll be a page coming up, Julia.
Thanks. So just quickly demonstrating. Hello, can you? Yeah. Okay, got it. So really, again, I highlighted the technology providers, the diversity of the membership globally. We cover 20 countries, and we have our customers, our providers, the equipment manufacturers, and a kind of a pop quiz for everyone. How many types of long duration energy storage are there? There's 4. So you have the thermal, you have chemical, electrochemical, and mechanical. And we're showing innovations and we're showing technologies that have been around for decades. So what's exciting to see is that there is long duration energy storage in the market. What we need is a bigger market to bring all the benefits and cost savings to customers and providing the societal benefits, giving both the heat and power as a necessity for all of us to live. Thanks, Hodart. I don't know if the video is working.
And really great to be with you. I'm actually, ironically, with you from Sharm el Sheikh, but I'm outside of the blue zone. I can't get in. I was trying to muster myself in through security, but no, I'm kidding. But I'm very happy to be with you and talk through the report on net zero heat. So if we show the first page, just it was launched on Wednesday and complements our work on net zero power. So within McKinsey's clean tech practice, we realized that without system flexibility, without long duration energy storage, you cannot get to our net zero power and net zero heat targets, right? So it's a critical component of that energy transition. If you want to read more after this presentation, because in 8 minutes there's almost only so much I can cover, there's a 70-page report which is available online on the Long Duration Energy Storage Council website, and really keen to engage you and your organizations as you, let's say, get more familiar with this topic. Next page. So when we talk about system flexibility, the way that we think about it is you have an energy system that is made up of power, heat, and hydrogen, so different components of that energy system. Of course, we have renewables as then the input to that energy system. So renewables really as a base to that energy system, but renewables being variable, you need to have flexibility to integrate renewables into matching to demand supply, right? So you want to create flexibility in power, flexibility in heat, and flexibility in hydrogen. So within each of these bubbles, you want to increase the amount of flexibility to absorb that variable renewable. You also want to create connections. So you want to integrate between power to hydrogen or power to heat. So there are these interconnections between power and hydrogen and power and heat that are also so critical. And it's this combination of flexibility within each bubble and in the interconnections that allow you to create the demand-matched supply of hydrogen, heat, and power. Also, if you have flexibility, you're also able to make much better use of the transmission infrastructure that you're building. So we will be building hundreds of billions of dollars of transmission infrastructure over the next decade. If you just build that for variable renewables, you'll have poorly utilized infrastructure, and flexibility allows you to create a much better utilization and significant value from a societal perspective. If we go to the next page. So as mentioned by Julia, long duration energy storage can provide both firm power and firm heat. And different from lithium-ion batteries, long duration energy storage really focuses on the problem of more than 10 hours of discharge of electricity or let's say discharge of heat. So you're really trying to go beyond the when I have renewables, I have power or I have heat, and really try to bring that into 24/7, multiple days when you don't have as much sun or wind, firm power and firm heat. That also meets that customer demand that you otherwise cannot, right? And you see increasing customers in data centers or in mines, really requiring that you have not just power when there's sun or wind, but power all the time. Interestingly, there's some myths around thermal energy storage. So one of the myths is you can only do low temperatures, right? And our work with the members shows that you can do anywhere, of course, between negative degrees. So you can use this for cooling of homes, and particularly as climate changes, right? And hopefully less, but as climate changes, you'll need cooling technologies, and thermal energy storage can prevent these massive peaks in demand, so cooling, but also very hot temperatures, up to 2400 degrees Celsius. So that's a myth. We can actually do all these temperatures from very low to very high. And another myth is it must be only short durations, right? Well, the fact is you can do weeks, months, and seasons of energy storage in a thermal perspective. Next page. So what are then some of the insights from the report? So first is heat is relevant, right? So 45% of emissions in our energy sector, if we exclude the power sector, which we covered last year at COP26, right? So if we're really focused on everything but power, then 45% of those energy emissions are heat related in cooling and also the heating hot side. Second is 97% of all the power you put into thermal energy storage, if you then use it as heat, comes out. So it's really efficient. I thought that thermal energy storage would be inefficient, right? You put power in, you get a little bit of heat out, but 97% plus of the energy you put into thermal energy storage comes out of that energy storage system. It's already in the money today. So 6 to 28% IRR is available with commercially available technology. So we can actually see investors looking at these returns thinking, okay, this actually makes sense. This is a return. Of course, there is a CO2 price baked into the outcome of these IRRs. And depending on which country, which gas price, which CO2 price, what are your grid charges? So there's different variables that impact the returns. But point is, you will find business cases for thermal energy storage today. You just need to look for the right locations and right environment. So when we then think about what's required in net zero power and heat systems, we're talking about 2 to 8 terawatts of deployed capacity. So terawatts being 1,000 gigawatts. So 8,000 gigawatts of deployed capacity. And as Julia said, this becomes relevant on a scale of hydrogen, solar, wind. So just to put it in perspective, this is 35% of cumulative solar and wind deployment. So long duration energy storage, it's a term you probably haven't heard as much about, but really becomes a very, very relevant part of our energy system as we continue to push out fossil fuels. 2 to 4 trillion of deployed capital over the next 20 years. So again, we talked a lot about capital deployment here at COP27. So we need capital to start to flow into long duration energy storage. And it's not capital for, let's say, a loss, right? So we have $550 billion per year of societal savings. So this is reduced fuel cost, reduced infrastructure cost, reduced capacity needs of a fossil capacity. So 550 billion of savings, and therefore you could even say it's about an 8-year payback on the capital deployed, right? So you deploy 4 trillion, you've got 550 billion of savings a year. That sounds from a societal perspective like a good deal to get climate change mitigated. So in the report, moving to the next page, we go into each of these in a lot of detail. So first thing we cover in the report, I won't do it here exhaustively, is we have the different thermal energy storage technologies. So there's 3 categories: sensible, latent, and thermochemical storage. So sensible storage is you're changing temperature. Latent storage is going from solid to liquid or liquid to gas. And thermochemical storage stores it in a chemical technology. Point is here that these technologies each provide different temperature ranges, different durations of energy shiftings from days to weeks to months. And also some of them are already commercial, some of them are near commercial, but you can definitely find commercially available technologies within the membership of the Long Duration Energy Storage Council. Next page. So as mentioned, we also looked at the economics of long duration energy storage of a thermal type and compared it to gas. Of course, gas today being one of the main uses to create heat. and we compared it to other low carbon technologies like hydrogen, like biomass, like putting carbon sequestration on a gas boiler. And you can see on the left-hand side, boilers, of course, depending on where you're sitting and which gas price you use. We use a relatively normal gas price, so not the peaks we see today in Europe, but a relatively normal gas price gets you to $40 to $65 per megawatt hour for 24/7 heat. So a levelized cost of heat. And this was for steam, right? So for example, in food processing, you'll need steam. You need steam for many, many industries. So that's what you pay for a gas boiler, including a CO2 price, right? We did include CO2 price in our left-hand side gas boiler. You compare that 40 to 65 to, for example, a hydrogen boiler, which is 65 to 100, or a biomass boiler, which is 45 to 70. So they're both more expensive than that gas boiler. You can also firm power, right? So you can take electricity, you can use a lithium-ion battery to create more firm power, right? So it's not 24/7, but at least gets firmer. You then put that firm power to heating. So you firm up electricity for heating. That actually gets you to, for example, an electric boiler, $70 to $100 per megawatt hour. So it's expensive to firm power for heating, right? If you compare that 70 to 100 to the electric boiler with thermal energy storage, you only pay 30 to 60. So you're paying 50% less for your firm heat if you use power to store it as heat and then use that heat for industrial decarbonization or the building stock. So I think that's a really important takeaway, and one that's not well understood. It's much more logical to firm up power to heat for heating applications than to firm up power as a power source for heating applications. So hopefully that's a clear takeaway for you here. Next page. So there are business cases available in the report. So again, takeaways, we looked with our membership of the LDES Council, really practical business cases, not thought experiments, but we looked at alumina refining. We looked at green steam for chemicals facilities, or district heating applications, or greenhouses in Africa. So we looked at different use cases, and we said, for that specific use case, what is the return for an investor putting in thermal energy storage? And as you can see, it varies up to 28%, but very much depending on geography and use case, you get to a return which is investable. So hopefully that actually shows you that you can put money to work within the thermal energy storage system. So that's some of the highlights. So if I wrap up, read more in the Long Duration Energy Storage Council report launched Wednesday. There's also a webinar of an hour that talks you through more of these in detail and has members talking about those. Again, commercially available, many of the temperatures, more attractive than firming power, and essential to getting us to net power and heat systems.
Super, thank you. Really interesting in a kind of energy dorky kind of way. I mean, this is just truly amazing. And Madeline, I'd like you to explain something that I find a little bit confusing about why heat decarbonization is so important.
Yes, so typically when we talk about energy, we focus on the electricity side. But in general, I mean, it's just top of the iceberg when we talk about the energy transition. Majority is heat. And if I'm representing an industry, we use heat. We use steam, we use hot air, for example. And as Gordon mentioned, it's 45% of the energy-related emissions. So if we look at the industry today, 70%, for example, of the heat is now used by fossil fuels. And I mean, this is what the report now shows, that we can, in a cost-efficient way, actually replace gas-fired boilers with thermal energy storage in a cost-efficient way already today. So it has a massive potential when it comes to decarbonization. So we have to talk even more on the heat side than not just about the electricity.
That makes a lot of sense. So Julia, your challenge, I'm sure, when I looked at that slide of all of those just amazing and innovative companies just really trying to get ahead in this space, clearly one of your challenges is to bring competitors together and move the whole industry faster. How do you actually do that? It seems very, very challenging.
I think what was exciting when the members came together was acknowledging that we needed to work together to have the marketplace and then go compete in the marketplace. We really needed to become that authoritative voice of defining what long duration energy storage is, and we could only do that as a collaborative. And so as we show that we've made progress in this, we're establishing LDES as a authoritative voice, as a known fact of de-risking the transition. This is helping each company move forward. And not only are we establishing LDES, we're also sharing insights and knowledge sharing to all help each company move forward faster because we don't have much time. So the collaborative nature actually is a huge win-win for our members and for the council and for our global society, because I think we're also demonstrating by sharing the facts of $550 billion a year in savings, working together, we can demonstrate the uniqueness of each company and how they can meet the diversity. Again, not every location is going to need the same thing. So having the diversity is really important.
So, Godard, you mentioned you need multiple trillions of dollars investment by 2040 to achieve the goals. So, from your perspective, having done this analysis and thought deeply about this issue, in the near term, what would you like to see happen to unblock things and enable the transition faster?
Well, I think the great news is that there are already economic locations to deploy this, like in markets of Europe where you have high gas prices today and you have a carbon price. You can find economic use cases that push out gas for heating in industrial applications economically and improve energy security. And you can build this technology within a year, right? So you can literally, if you would start tomorrow, you would have it in place before the winter of 2023. So again, it is, for me, less a situation of if only we would have some more money pouring into R&D, then we would have this future in 10 years. But it's really about industry understanding there's an alternative to gas for firm heat, and that industry doesn't think, okay, I just need to wait until my power utility provides me with firm power. Otherwise, I can't put in that heat pump or I can't put in that e-boiler. The dynamics of the storage system, and people don't often understand that if you have an energy market, that energy market fluctuates. So you have times in that energy market where prices to charge are cheap, right? So, and the thermal energy storage system allows you to opportunistically choose the moments in time when you're charging from that energy market so that you're absorbing electrons when those power markets are cheap, and use that cheap electricity to decarbonize and push out natural gas. So I think the trick is industries understanding that this is an economic use case that allows you to put solar or wind next door to your factories, charge those storage systems and push out gas, and that you can actually make money with it and also have environmental impact.
Thank you. Michael, so this technology, I would say, from what I understand, many are in the pilot or demonstration phase. What's your take on what it will take to commercialize?
Well, as you say, there are many innovative technologies, and always, let's say, the biggest step is building the first commercial plant, the first scale-up. Once you've done the first scale-up, then the follow-ups multiply extremely rapidly. So I think that is where we would need some kind of support. There are many instruments in Europe, like the Innovation Fund, in the US, I think, like the IRA, etc. And so I think now is the time to scale up. Once you are scaled up, I think what we need also are long-term let's say, offtake agreements. The real good news is that unlike 25 years ago, when we have to decarbonize and substitute gas plants today, renewable investments have become so competitive, so economic, so that in the end, renewables plus storage is cheaper today than gas. But what we need is, since we are substituting, let's say, gas-fired and gas purchases for the next 20 years, all by technology, for the generation and for the storage, which need to be financed upfront, we do not need subsidies, we just need long-term offtake agreements. And I give you an example, let's say outside Europe, for example, here in Dubai, they're building now a solar power system, 700 megawatts, with 12 to 15 hours of storage in 35 years power purchase agreements. And so I think that is what we need, a long-term offtake to substitute fossil fuels by technology investment.
So call
May
to
I just
action. I was
add
going to
to
say,
that?
you sure can. I was going to say, I'm hearing a real clear call to action for companies to make those long-term contracts and maybe band together and do aggregated long-term demand. Yeah.
I think one very important part of this is that it has to be, the policy incentives has to be technology neutral. Because what we just demonstrate is that there's so many different technologies and all have one part to play because energy storage is complex and they're all going to be needed. So from a policy perspective, it's very important that these are technology neutral. And it cannot just be batteries. We have to have the full spectrum of all technologies when we do these incentive plans.
So Jonas, in Europe, we in the United States are seeing that you are coming very clearly to the energy crisis as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's bringing the importance of the transition and the challenge of the transition to the forefront. Can you speak to whether you think this is going to accelerate the transition and the energy security piece of the puzzle?
Yes. See, yeah, this one is working. I really think that sort of security is coming up on the agenda as one of the key topics. And here, long-duration energy storage will definitely play a really important role, because by having huge capacities as the long-duration energy storage, like megawatt hours, we are really able to replace the fossil fuels from Russia. And this is key moving forward now, and also will hopefully be part of the incentives from EU. And I also want to comment, since we are one of the sort of commercial technologies when it comes to long-duration energy storage, it's a long purchase agreement, definitely, but also we have to find ways to sort of get the capital, because it's always a quite high capex investment when it comes to long-duration energy storage, and then you have a very, very low OPEX. And this mindset has to be changed, because more or less everybody is used to high OPEX costs and low capex investments. So it's a mindset in the industry that we have to change. And I think long-duration energy storage and Julia is really doing a great job here to sort of change that mindset.
So I'm going to throw a challenging question that's not on the list to you. Madeline said I could. So I know from our scientists that the science is continually changing on things. We know that from hydrogen. It's a very slippery little molecule and an indirect greenhouse gas, and ideally needs to be employed in the right way. How are you thinking about incorporating the ever-changing science about all of the components of the life cycle of long-duration energy storage?
Well, if I may add here, because I'm also living half in the science world, I'm senior advisor also to the German Aerospace Agency. I think, let's say, in the science, we think of longer term, and I think we need to act now. So I think there must be let's say, a close cooperation between science and industry, but at least in Europe, I see there's sufficient funding. There is no problem in getting projects together. But I think with especially the Ukraine war, we have to act now, and we don't have, let's say, the time to make a 5-year horizon program and then a 5-year demonstration program, and then in 10 years we do the first scale-up. So here I think we need to sit together and bring, what I always say, PowerPoint to power plant.
That makes sense. So I'd like to ask one final question, since we're ending with shortly. starting in reverse order with you, Jonas, what is the key takeaway message that you would like the audience to take with them about long duration energy storage?
I think that long duration energy storage is really the glue in between the short duration storage and hydrogen like seasonal storage. The glue that sort of really creates a complete solution with storage solutions for the grid. That is my takeaway.
Yeah, my takeaway is we have the technology there today. It is competitive, and we just have, let's say, to adapt regulations and also bureaucracy. I think administrative bureaucracy in permitting such plants in order to be able to bring into reality fast what we already have.
Go ahead and I'll get Michael. I'll get
Hodor, do you want to
later.
go?
Sure. It's for me, it's the potential of long duration energy storage to really accelerate renewables deployment. Right now, renewables deployment is often bottlenecked by not being able to, let's say, connect solar or wind farms, or not having stability in electrical networks that allow you to put renewables in grids. Long duration energy storage absorbs those electrons, allows you to put it, let's say, renewables in the location of consumption, and also creates stability in grids. So really an accelerant of renewables deployment, removing some of the bottlenecks in today's energy transition.
Thanks, Hodor. And building among the colleagues' points, and I can't wait for Madeline to close on this. I'd say three things. One, LDES is the missing piece. It's the glue. It is de-risking the transition, providing you the affordability, the reliability, and the security. We have multi-hour, multi-day, multi-month, and seasonal storage that you can give you those diverse resources, and that is critical going forward. So a takeaway is LDES is here today. It is part of the solution, and we're looking forward to working with all of you on scaling up the marketplace so that you can say LDES is just as important to your livelihoods as it is to ours.
So how do I close this up? I think the key thing, if it's LDES or if it's other clean tech technologies, is partnerships. Because I think it's the only way we can go into action mode, and the only way to really accelerate is if we collaborate. And I think the LDES Council is a unique way to show and demonstrate that not only technology providers, but also the complete value chain can come together. And by doing so, I really think we can accelerate the deployments. Good. Yes.
Thank you so much, Madeline, Julia, Godard, Michael, and Jonas. It was an excellent panel as predicted.